episode of Boxing Weekend Update. I am your host, the Bronx Farmer, along with Abe, uh, that represents NewYorkFights.com. So, Abe, how was your week? How you been doing?
Oh, good, man. Just enjoying these fights, enjoying the festivities last night, and just ready to rock and roll. Let's get it.
All right, good to go. So, the first segment here, Abe is gonna take you around the boxing world with the latest and greatest news that's been happening in boxing. All right, Abe, all yours.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with the Jake Paul Conor McGregor situation. So apparently Jake Paul offered or sent an offer to Conor McGregor of $50 million. He showed up in front of I think it was a Lamborghini, and he had a big cartoon-like check for $50 million and said that he sent it over to Conor, that he needs to go ahead and accept the fight, insulting him and his family, a little borderline there. But then he sent TMZ a screenshot of that actual offer. So looks like it's legit, and that kind of made the Twitter sphere and the YouTube sphere around. Also, Holyfield Tyson. Holyfield was on the Akim Barak show. He was talking about how he wants this Tyson fight, how Tyson looked, and believes that they can make that happen. Lomachenko coming around and saying that dropped a YouTube video saying
Yes.
that the judges were bribed, and the injuries and this and that. So my good friend and editor at NY Fights, Michael Woods, he covered that on a Ring Magazine article. So definitely check that out. They also announced Oscar Valdez versus Miguel Berchelt in February. They announced some other fights, but that one really sticks out. And then as of last night, the really big one that I'm excited about is Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez going up against Juan Francisco Gallo Estrada for that unified crown. And so lot of good stuff this week, Jacob.
Oh, absolutely, man. So, any word on did Conor McGregor reach back out, or how is he taking this as a fluke, or it's just another joke, or it's any word from his camp on the Paul challenge?
To be honest with you, I have not seen anything from Conor McGregor. I know that he is scheduled for a UFC fight, from what he had mentioned, and so they haven't really promoted it or anything like that. And so I don't know if this is something that happened before or something happened after. Maybe they delayed the UFC fight. Really haven't heard anything. If I'm Conor McGregor, first I want to make sure that the funds are real and that there's an escrow account that reflects, whatever deposit or money that, showing that it's available. And also, what the event entitles. There's a little more than just, hey, I'm sending you 50 million. If you're sending me 50 million, but the event's going to do 100, 150 million, and I'm the biggest name, then I'm probably going to want, percentages and everything else. So I'm sure that they're going to come to the negotiating table, right after the holidays and figure all that out.
Yeah, and the Holyfield and Mike Tyson thing. This I'm a little scared about that, because I don't think this is going to be as exhibition-y, for lack of better terms, as it was with the Roy Jones Jr. I think these two have history. I think there's a little bad blood there. Does this give you a real fight feel, or you still think it's an exhibition type deal going forward?
It's still an exhibition. I think maybe Holyfield might take it a little more serious than Tyson would, or maybe vice versa. Some of those old feelings might drum up during the fight. So all those angles will be used to market this fight if it happens. It looks like originally it didn't, because Holyfield wanted like $25 million, it was reported, or $23 million. So that didn't happen. But maybe now he is, coming down to reality and knowing, what he can get and what the upside is. And maybe that happens next.
I'm a little critical of all these old timers coming out. It's almost as if Tyson didn't do it, then nobody else was going to do it. And Tyson did it, and it almost looks like everybody wants to try to capitalize, one more paycheck out of this, or because going back to the reason why Tyson did it, he did it mostly because he got in the gym, he felt good, the calling was back. Not so much about the money, because he doesn't need the money because of his other ventures. So, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know not too long ago, he still owed money to the IRS. So I don't know if that's the case or not. You know, he was still on that tax bill that he needed to pay off, which was why he was doing all those stand-ups. I don't know if you remember a few years back, he was doing all the stand-ups, and a lot of those checks were going straight to the government. So I don't know if it's something that he still owes money in, but you know, he also knows what his brand means to pop culture. From the time that he was the man to now, and it's still relevant. Look, he was on Shark Week and it did record numbers. So he knows what he has there. I don't think it's so much of a I want to get this last paycheck, more so than he wants to take advantage of the fact that he's still a name that can sell.
Absolutely, yeah, and and yeah, that Lomachenko, you know, going down the line of all the news you've hit, the Lomachenko thing took me aback. You know, I didn't think. I was a little critical on Twitter. I think you saw some of my tweets, but man, you break your silence to come with that with no proof or no sound evidence of any corruption or any bribery going on. What do you think is going on in the mind of Lomachenko?
I think his ego is bruised, to be honest with you. You know, taking a loss like that, you know, after, you know, both of them were talking trash, but, you know, he was, you know, basically saying that he was going to be looking at his dad or talking to his dad after the fight and telling him how much he beat up his son. And that didn't happen. And so, you know, I think it's more so about the ego being bruised than anything else.
Yeah, man. I think that hits it, man. But to throw out allegations like that kind of waters down. Number one, it waters down who you are, because you know, he's, in my opinion, he still fought a good fight. He fought a competitive fight. He turned it on late in the end. It took away, number one, from who you are as a champion. It took away from the fight itself, and it definitely took away from Teofimo's accomplishment. And that's sad coming from a guy like Lomachenko. I expect it would be better for him. So, but all right. So, man, there's a lot happens this week. A lot of headlines, and we're gonna wrap up this segment with what do you think is gonna happen with Chocolatito moving forward, man?
So I think that, oh, man, I'm so excited because there's conversation of them trying to have it at the War Grounds, formerly known as the Stub Hub, now the Dignity Sports and Health Park. And you know, that's right up the street from me, maybe about an hour or so. So if there's an opportunity for me to maybe attend that super fight, which I consider the super fight, then I'm gonna try to do that. If California doesn't, you know, go to a less restrictive situation, then they'll probably have it in Texas, which I can see that happening as well. Either way, whether it's California, whether it's Texas, whether it's Mexico, it's going to be well received. It's going to be a hot ticket. It's going to have that buzz. Unfortunately, it won't have that commercial buzz, but it will have that big fight buzz amongst the Latin American community and just Latin community, period. And so it's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited. If he wins that fight, oh man, you know, I'm staring at that Tanaka Ioka fight on December 31st, you know, and if Chocolatito fights, you know, we're talking about a mega fight in Japan at the Tokyo Dome between Chocolatito and the winner of that fight. Maybe even December 31st of next year for their New Year's Eve celebration, which is one of their biggest holidays of the year. So, man, I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm excited too. And listen, that like you said, it's gonna be nothing but fireworks to wrap up the new year if that does happen.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, moving on to our next segment. We have to man, we got to wrap up the Verdejo Nakatani fight. And even though that wasn't the main event was the Shakur Stevenson fight. But I don't think nobody expected anything different than what Shakur put out there. Which, man, it's almost watching a conductor with a symphony orchestra. He was in control of that fight. He looked good. You know, I even tweeted that James Brown's cape is a little jealous. Because that's how smooth he looked, man. He did it with talent. He did it with swag, and he wasn't fighting a bum either. You know, the guy wasn't, Shakur's opponent wasn't a punk. But the fight of the night and the one with the most drama of the night had to be the Verdejo Nakatani fight. What are your thoughts on that fight, man? What do you think took place?
Man, I want the Verdejo to win. There was conversation about him and Teofimo at the Garden during Puerto Rican Day Parade weekend in June. Uh, if he won this fight, and so things were pointing in that direction. I know that when he got that first knockdown, the suits at Top Rank were probably jumping for joy inside, thinking, "Man, if this keeps going in this direction, we could have ourselves a major, major fight in June." Then it seemed like the old Felix Verdejo came out, and and he couldn't finish him. He almost seemed like he got discouraged, but Nakatani, in his mind, was getting more motivated and was saying to himself, "Well, if I took his best punch and I'm still here, then I could still win this fight." And that happens when you're, a veteran who's been there with some of the better fighters in the game. And he didn't let go of the gas, and then he put out Verdejo at the end. It was something.
It was something. He sure did. And I was very in my tweets and actually that single fight alone actually made me pull up my keyboard and start writing again. And my God, because so much hype surrounded Verdejo after his accident, after his first loss, and like I wrote in an article, I couldn't think why. I mean, up to that point, he hadn't faced a major, he hasn't faced a former world champion, and he only had, and up to his loss, he only had fought, two world title challengers. So he lost, okay, got it, and you brush yourself up, and you keep coming back, but they were building us up as some sort of, major like comeback, and anyway, we run along with the flow, us as fans, and he didn't disappoint. He put on a good showing the last previous four fights. But we knew something. We knew that Nakatani was going to be a tough fight for Dejo. But like you, I didn't think that it was going to be anything that he wasn't going to be able to overcome or deal with, or given everything that he's done up to this point. And the first few rounds started off good. He was lightning quick. What I liked about it was he was precise.
Yeah.
Aside from being, besides being lightning quick, he was precise. His punches found the mark time and time again. They were hard. You could hear them make a contact, and Nakatani knew it. Nakatani's like, oh, if you see Nakatani's facial, demeanor after the first knockdown, he was not expecting that at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know why he changed his fight plan. There's many speculations as to why he changed his fight plan. It almost as if I need to land. If I take him out, then I could ask for bigger, better fights. I could do something Teofimo didn't do, which was knock Nakatani out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was his thinking. Whatever it was, like you said, the Felix Verdejo of old showed up, and there's nothing left to deduce other than, in my opinion, he just doesn't. When the fight gets tough, he doesn't want to dig deep and fight his way out. Nope, not taking anything away from Nakatani. I mean, he did what Verdejo should have done, which was dig deep when nothing else is working for you. Just gut it out. And anyway, Nakatani did that. And what is in the future for these two fighters, man? What do you think, given the outcome of this fight?
So with Nakatani, had a broken orbital bone, and so he went to the hospital right after. There was talk that he was going to retire before the fight. So whether he retires now moving forward, maybe not. With this win, maybe he is given the Teofimo fight, and he gets another big payday. For Verdejo, I think he starts becoming, gatekeeper status. You start feeding him to the young lions coming up. I don't see him getting like a big shot at a title anytime soon.
Yeah, unless he does something dramatic and he goes on a impressive win streak that starts having people talk again. I'm with you. I think he falls into the gatekeeper status, and it's sad because he has all the talent in the world. Yeah. But we've seen this before. He's not the first one to not live up to his full potential and expectations of those of the fight fans and the boxing world. So it'll be interesting to see what's coming. However, I don't think you hold Nakatani back. I think he's earned it. I think he put up a good showing with Teofimo. I think he put up a beyond impressive showing with Verdejo, and I hope that he doesn't get robbed of opportunity to fight for a world title.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. We'll see if he wants it or not.
All right, that brings us now to Demetrius Boo Andrade. Is it pronounced with a Spanish saying, or is it pronounced Andrade?
Andrade.
Andrade. Okay, Demetrius. Sometimes my Spanish gets in there. I want to say things in Spanish.
You and me both.
Andrade and Gary Russell Jr. Man, why can't these guys land a big fight, man?
With Andrade, it's frustrating because he has opportunities to stop guys early, and when he doesn't take advantage of them, and he just coasts to the rest of the fight, it turns people off. Like this last fight that he had at the club in Miami, he had the guy out of there early. And then what does his coach tell him? Oh, well, just box. Like not even like get in there and finish this guy. And, people get frustrated about that. They get frustrated. That's one. Two, he's a southpaw. He's a southpaw that's tall and long. People don't want that. And like that old line in Rocky, he's all wrong for us, baby. And that's the case for a lot of these guys. Like he's all wrong for a lot of guys. And so, nobody wants to get in there with that. You look at Triple G. Triple G has, said it multiple times. He don't want that fight. Like nobody wants that fight. And so Andrade finds himself in a situation where he has to keep fighting these mandatories or, maybe fight Billy Joe next. Like, who knows? But, that's the deal with that. As far as Gary Russell, so my understanding is that Gary Russell is like a real estate agent when he's not fighting. I don't know if he still does that or not, but he's a real estate agent in Maryland. And maybe that has been producing some good checks for him, and he's satisfied with just fighting once a year. He's also said that he hates training. He's mentioned that in a few interviews. So maybe he gets up for that one time a year and says, "Okay, I'm good. I did what I needed to do. Let me go back into hiding again." And he's another guy. He's super fast. He is super fast. He has a ton of talent. And at 126, there wasn't no one out there at 126 that wanted to face that guy. I guess Leo wanted the fight, but Al Heyman, Leo is Al Heyman's guy. And so I think in the back of Al Heyman's mind, he didn't want Leo to face Russell because he may have known what the outcome would have been. So now Gary's just kind of chasing fights. And so good luck to him. He'll fight somebody maybe at 130, 135, probably a division higher than what he needs to be fighting. And he probably will get beat. If I'm Gary Russell, I'll stay at 126, maybe even drop down to 122. There's some exciting fights down there. If he can make this 122, he's small enough. He probably can, and maybe capture some titles there. But we'll see.
I mean, I think what's so sad about this, and the reason why it's so shocking to me, because we're not talking about two bums here. We're talking about two world-class athletes at the top of the game. So when you're talking about Andrade, and we're talking about Gary Russell Jr., we're not talking about just some journeymen. We're talking about guys that are still can make a mark in boxing, still can make great fights. I agree with you with the Demetrius part. I think he makes trouble for anybody because if you look at his build, the way he's just built, how Michael Phelps was built to swim. They did this whole thing on Sports Illustrated. They broke him down how scientifically, he should have been a fish or something. But Andrade is built weird like that, And then you put that together with some boxing skill. You put that together with some power and finesse. I mean, he's trouble for anybody. But so that's why I don't understand, and I do understand. He's sort of falling into that Winky Wright little world,
Yeah.
Yeah, when nobody wants to fight Winky Wright because they knew what the outcome is. However, the egos at 160 don't allow me to believe that. The egos at the 160 with the Charlos and the Caleb Plants and the Benavides and all these guys that can make these great fights. And that's what's frustrating. We talk about Gary Russell Jr. and you talk about Andrade, is that they're fighting in divisions with stacked fighters. Mm-hmm. Number one, they're not bum fighters. They're world-class athletes. And number two, there's other world-class athletes in there that can make for great fights. So why boxing finds themselves in this predicament time and time and again, frustrates me as a fan, because these are fights that we should be seeing. These are fights that we should be watching. I don't care if Andrade fights Benavidez. I don't care if he fights Caleb Plant. I don't care if he fights Canelo. He was there yesterday, and him and Chris Maddox shared some words yesterday, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little heated there for a second, but I let it play out. And I don't. And by the way, I don't necessarily disagree with Andrade.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with Andrade, but yeah. So it's frustrating to see these guys out there, not be able to land these money fights. As far as Gary Russell Jr. is concerned, yeah, he doesn't like to train. Yeah, he probably does real estate. Is probably doing well, but nothing's going to bring in the kind of money of landing a major fight, and I think that's what he's looking for, landing a major fight in that division with any of those guys, because he's definitely game for it, and I think he'll definitely put on a good fight. He's definitely making videos, whether he's calling people bluff or not. He keeps making videos, and I would have thought that after he allegedly threatened Santa Cruz's father, that fight would have happened just on sheer principle alone. And still that fight didn't manifest itself. So that gives validity to your point that maybe people just want to stay away from these guys, man. And that's sad, because somebody should be forcing these fights some way, somehow. Maybe they need to take a blueprint out of Dana White's book and force these fights, because the way they do at UFC. I don't know what the fix is. I know it's frustrating to say the least. So with that being said, and connecting Andrade to Canelo, what did you think about Canelo's performance last night?
Wow. I was watching, I like to compare it to, I was watching the Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
I haven't seen that yet, but I heard it was good.
About chess, is about a chess player.
Yeah.
And, she was next level, and she looked in the sky, could see moves or see how, different situations played out, before even playing. And I feel like that's what Canelo was doing. He saw things, coming at different angles, and he was just going, he was rolling with so many punches because he saw them coming. There were some instances where, and I love this, when he did a fake left hook, but then finished it with a left uppercut. But it was like in a matter of a blink, a split second that he did it. And I was like, man, this guy is on some next level. Hey, I'm the final master on a Double Dragon video game. This guy is that guy. And we're just watching. It's almost like we're watching Picasso paint, create art in our time, and we have to just appreciate that. I think it was a masterclass performance, and it just shows that the level that he's at is, there ain't too many people at that level.
Correct, and then he put on a world-class performance, and now he has reached this level of reminds me of Barry Gordon's Last Dragon, where he got the glow. He's at that level, man. He probably could stop bullets with his teeth too. They let him, but. But, it was a masterclass performance, and it just, one or two things you could take away from watching a fight like that. Because, again, in my opinion, Caleb Smith is no bum, He's a very game fighter. And he had all the build to make trouble for Canelo. He was tall. He was long. I mean, he could punch. But he didn't fight the right fight. So I don't know how much of that was Smith not sticking to a fight plan, because I believe the fight plan should have been, you're the taller fighter, don't engage with this guy, keep him at the end of your punch. I believe that maybe his camp, if they're students of the sport, that should have been in the talk somewhere. Or Canelo's that guy. Canelo has the glow. He stops bullets with his teeth. And he's just that guy. He's going to break down. His skill is just that level. He's going to break down whatever fight plan you bring to the game. And based on what I saw, and based on what the big guys on Twitter are saying, the Dan Raphaels, the Matthew Aguilars, all these guys, all the writers, is that it was the latter of the two. Canelo's just at that level. And it's exciting to see what's going to happen, because there's definitely a lot of names out there that could challenge that and see with again the names we just threw out there. And Golovkin fought the day before. The reason why I bring Golovkin up is because his name is being thrown in the mix of maybe with the third fight with Canelo. But based on what I saw and based on what people are saying, the maturity after the second fight between Canelo and Golovkin, one is way has mature, fight game has matured a lot better than the other, and is leaning towards where if Canelo and Golovkin were to have a third fight, then it wouldn't even be a match for Canelo. Do you agree?
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, let's just touch Triple G's performance for a second on Friday. They were, I guess the zone, has to hype it up, right? And they were like, man, this is the Triple G of 5 years ago, and this and that. Triple G had a really good performance for a guy that's 38 years old, and I'm gonna say that he has wide punches still, but they're coming a lot slower, so people can see it coming more. Especially when you start talking about world-class guys, he still has the power, still has the chin, but in between rounds he was breathing awfully heavy. So I don't know if he can keep up the pace that he may have had on that first fight even, or the second fight. So I think that Canelo, right now, I think Canelo beats Triple G a little easier on the third time. I don't think that fight's going to happen, to be honest. I think it's Triple G versus Munguia before Triple G versus Canelo. I honestly believe that.
Yeah, I saw talks about Triple G and Munguia, and then, but that the middleweight division between the 160 and 170, that those weights where people could go up and down fairly easily for some people, and maybe not so for others. But there are a lot of fights to be made in that division. I hope they get around to making them because number one, some some of these guys have fought their way up, made their bones, and they deserve a shot at the pound for pound king, which right now people are saying is Canelo. So I would love to see some of those fights unfold, whether it be Benavidez, Charlo, any of these guys take a crack at Canelo. And then for Triple G, I think when you're a champion, as long as he was, and you gave two good outings against Canelo, one arguably a win in his favor or a draw in the first fight, and then in the second fight, the margins weren't that far off. I think we give the man a little bit more respect, and at least just on the respect aspect alone. And maybe if nobody else is taking the Canelo fight, then maybe we give him the third fight.
Yeah.
But 2021, if 2021 goes anywhere the way 2020 was, who knows what'll happen?
Yeah, no kidding.
And
no kidding.
Man, so we already had it planned that we were going to talk about Terrence Crawford's legacy, but then yesterday, some talk about who's the A side, who's the B side between him and Spence started happening, and the Spence threw out was, in my opinion, a ridiculous split of the purse, which was 70-30, I think I heard, or is a legend that he said that? No, I don't think it's a legend. I think he did say it. If he was going to fight Crawford, he won in a 70-30 split, 70 his favorite, 30 in Crawford's favor, and I was gonna sit here and criticize Crawford for saying he doesn't need Spence to cement his legacy. But when that Spence throws out, in my opinion, what I think is a ridiculous split of the purse, I find myself not in terms of legacy, disagreeing with what Crawford said, but in terms of does Spence really want this fight? What is going on here, man?
To be honest, I heard, Spence, and I caught the end where he said, or whatever we give him. So, and that was like a real like boss-like statement. Not too many people caught that at the end of what Spence was saying. He's like, or whatever we give him. Like, I'm the guy here, if we give you the fight, this is what you're going to get, and you're going to take it, and that's it. And believe it or not, I think Spence, took that position because he knows that Crawford is still on the top rank, and he's still got. So if I'm Spence, right, why am I going to basically give Crawford and Top Rank an out by giving them the fight on their terms of 50-50? Like, when there's a possibility that Crawford could come off of that contract next October, and then they can keep all the money in-house, and figure out the split at that point, and they could maybe play with the cut. I don't if he were to sign to PBC, I don't see it being a 70-30, or it'll probably be like a maybe like a 55-45. But that's because all the money will be in house, and so there's no point of this. I've said it in many articles too. There's no point of thinking about Crawford Spence in 2021. If it happens, it's 2022. It's as simple as that. If he signs with PBC, you think that the first fight is going to be Crawford, is going to be Spence? No. They're going to put Crawford in with Danny Garcia or Thurman or somebody like that, and just to kind of build him up in Fox. And then they'll do the Spence like at the end of 2022 or something when Crawford is like 35 years old. So I just think that it just doesn't make business sense on the Spence side. And then another thing is he's been doing the numbers. He's been packing in, 15,000 folks, doing some solid pay-per-view numbers. Yeah, Crawford did, some good ratings on TV. But when he did his pay-per-view against Brooke, or no, not Brooke, but he did his last pay-per-view, it didn't even break 100,000. So, Bob Arum said he's lost millions of dollars. I mean, Terrence Crawford, and then, his personality, I've said this in articles as well, his personality and Spence's personality, they just don't match for a mega fight. Boxing fans look at it as a mega fight, but commercially, it's not a mega fight. It really isn't. Crawford doesn't have the personality. He's not out there promoting his situation and, on social media stuff. Spence really isn't either. So Spence needs to, have that other dance partner for a super fight, like a Manny Pacquiao, like a Canelo Alvarez. Crawford doesn't have that opportunity. So he's like, well, we're going to give you this because we're helping you out more than you helping us out.
Correct. And I totally agree. In the business aspect, it makes sense why these two probably won't meet in the near future, if ever. So for the business aspect, I get it. From the legacy aspect of boxing, I criticized Terrence Crawford in one of my videos because he said, "I don't need Spence for your legacy." At boxing, more so than any other sport, your legacy is built on who you fight. For right, wrong, or different, that will be your legacy. When you think of James Buster Douglas, his legacy is that he defeated Mike Tyson. Forget what else happened in the rest of his career. When you think about Michael Moore, you think that his legacy is always going to be tied to a 45-year-old George Foreman knocking him out. When you think Ali, you think Frazier. When you think, Leonard, you think the Fab Four in that world. So boxing lends itself to that, legacy lends itself to who you fight. So regardless of the numbers, regardless of the business aspect, these two need each other to cement their legacy. I will argue Crawford more than Spence because Spence so far has fought bigger names within the welterweight division, in my opinion. He fought Sean Porter, he fought Danny Garcia, he fought Kell Brook, he fought Mikey Garcia, as opposed to, Crawford, who's, hasn't made his way around that division as he should at this point in his career. So we will see what plays out. But I think that for these two, they need to hopefully square away the business aspect of this, so that fight can happen. More so for cementing their legacy right now in terms of that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think, and I slightly disagree with you in a sense where I think that Crawford needs this for his legacy more than Spence does.
Totally.
Because Spence has more tread on that tire that's left. Yeah. Crawford's tread is almost going to where they got to replace those tires. So I think that for Crawford, he's on the clock more so than Spence is, and Spence still has opportunities to fight at 154, at 160 in the future against bigger names, and Crawford does not have those opportunities.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And again, Crawford needs to get out there, mark himself a little bit better, market himself. I said that in my video too. Yeah, promoters, in my opinion, promote events. The Thriller in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle, they promote the event. And all the marketing goes along with it. and fighters promote themselves. Ali, you paid money back in the 60s. I wasn't alive, but back in the 60s, people paid money to see somebody shut up Ali. In our lifetime, people paid money to see people shut up Mayweather.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a way for boxers to market themselves. And Ali did it without social media. Mayweather did it. Still, you could argue he did it without social media. It wasn't until later in his career the whole social media thing blew up. And even now, it's easier because of social media. So there's no excuse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So the Hall of Fame class got released. What do you think? You agree, disagree?
No arguments there. I think that everyone that was on that poster deserved to be there.
Yeah.
I would have, maybe had a save for Miguel Cotto, but I could understand why he didn't make that specific class looking at the ones that got selected.
Absolutely. I don't disagree either. I think everybody that got selected is Hall of Fame material, Hall of Fame. Bottom line, they got it right. You could make an argument to interchange Ward with Cotto based on, some minute things. But no, I nevertheless, I think they got it right. And I think Cotto gets it next year, hands down. So,
absolutely.
All right. And so social media, back on social media, has made its rounds. And it lends itself from some good stuff. It lends itself from marketing, and we get to see fighters up close and personal, unlike that we saw before. We get into the mind of a fighter, and there's sometimes just a little too much, Roly definitely uses social media. I've been critical of Roly. I think I've been so critical of Roly. Sometimes I got to be careful. Sometimes I get so critical if I see these guys, they might want to beat me up or something.
Roly's a cool dude, man. I've run into more than a handful of times. He's a good kid.
Yeah, man, he seems like a good kid. He definitely has the persona. He definitely has the camera presence. We got to help him with his talking sometimes. But what's going on with this Roly Haney trash talk? It was pretty, really, witty the way Roly did that.
Yeah. Oh, it was entertaining as hell, and that's why I wrote an article about it, because it was just funny.
I saw the article. Yeah.
It's just funny. He put Haney's face on his Instagram stories. He put Haney's face like on Nicki Minaj video, and on like somebody else's video, and it was just some funny stuff. And then Haney isn't as witty, so he was just kind of going back to his last fight, Roly's last fight. So it was interesting. I don't know, when I talked to Roly and I was getting some quotes from him, he said that he started it. I don't know where it originated from. It could be some Vegas stuff. They both live in Vegas, so in Vegas things are like anything else. It's like a neighborhood. You got your beef, you got your bochinche, and it just ends up coming into what developed on social media. So that's a fight that may happen. It may very well happen. Now Roly is fighting on Showtime at the end of January, so that was announced yesterday. Okay. And so he's got a fight lined up. Now it's just on Haney to see what he's got going on. But I wouldn't be surprised if those two fight down the road. I think it'd be an interesting fight. I think that Roly had a night off his last one, and I think stylistically it probably wasn't the best fight for him. But I think that he would get up for this one for sure.
Absolutely. I think what happens is we gotta be careful. Not we, but I'm talking about what we also. Anybody that uses social media, you gotta be careful with how you use it and when you use it, especially fighters, because eventually you gotta put your money where your mouth is. Okay, and eventually you gotta step in that ring. And especially if it's somebody you called out, especially if it's if let's just say Roly and Haney does happen, and from the few fights that I've seen from Roly, he's a good fighter, but I don't know where I wouldn't rank him up there with the Haneys and the Lopez's and the Tank Davises of the world. I wouldn't rank him up there with that. So I think his fight game hasn't measured up to the likes of those guys we talked about. So I think he's resulting to hyping himself up. So I don't know how much of that is a inflated hype job, or does he really have the skills to back up what he's saying? What do you think?
Yeah, so Rolly's best friends with Teofimo.
Yeah,
So a little bit of that is from that, right? And I think with Roly, he reminds me of Clubber Lang in Rocky 3, right? This guy hits hard. He hits like a Mack truck, but maybe he's not the most skilled guy, but he hits hard, and if he catches you, you're gonna feel it. And so I think that, he is, still developing his boxing game, and I think that, in next year, how he's matched and how he looks when he's matched will determine how far in his development he is.
absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely some polishing that needs to happen with Roly. I don't disagree with you the power aspect. I also think that based on what I saw his last fight, he can also take a decent punch.
Hmm.
But when you start talking about the difference between, even though they're friends, and although he may get a little bit of that between Teofimo and Roly, is that the difference between Teofimo and Roly is it's obvious. We don't have to sit
Oh
here.
yeah,
We don't have to sit here and lay them all out. So, but nevertheless, he is in the fight game. He what he does better than what Crawford does is keep his name in people's mouth. So, so he's definitely relevant. He's definitely out there. We'll see. What's to happen. And he falls under the Mayweather crew, doesn't he?
yes.
Yeah. So Mayweather's not stupid. Mayweather's, if anything, is business savvy. He knows
Hmm.
how to get Rolly the right fights and where to take that career path. So, then no matter what happens, you gotta put up a shut up once fight night happens.
Of
So we'll
course.
see if he does that. Oh yeah, man. So hey, listen, man. This has been a great segment. We're gonna wrap it up here with what's upcoming the next couple of weeks in the schedule. If you heard of any book releases or TV documentaries, anything like that, floor is yours. Take us away.
Yeah. So, in regards to documentaries, I heard a rumor that Showtime is doing a documentary on the Four Kings.
Oh,
And
right.
so that I am super excited about. That's probably going to come out, in 2021 sometime, but that is happening. I should say it's not a rumor, but I know it is happening. Somebody that I know is providing footage for that. So,
Yeah.
Four Kings documentary, that's going to be
That's gonna be
something.
great because Rings Magazine's uh, issue was phenomenal. I
Yeah,
read that thing cover to cover.
and I think that's what really like sparked the idea of it. I'm finishing I'm finishing the Camacho book, right? But my wife, which I love so much, finished getting me this one here,
Oh
which
yeah,
is a
that the
fist
Carlos Zone.
a fistful of murder, fights and crimes with Carlos Monzon from Hamilcar, Don Stradley. Uh, she got me that book, so I'll be deep diving into that right after I finish the Camacho one. But as far as the new year, I think, we are going to, it's going to be a wait and see with the crowds and everything else. Even the Berchelt Valdez, Bob Arum has mentioned that he's not going to announce the location just yet because he's hoping that they can get it in the crowd. So I think everything is wait and see. We'll see how the country goes with the vaccines and everything. The one thing that I'm really looking forward to right at the beginning of the year is Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell. And I think that fight can very well determine if we get a super fight in 2021. Um, if Ryan Garcia knocks out Luke Campbell, you can forget about it. His profile is going to shoot right up. Trust me. That's a real possibility. There's a young guy making his pro debut named Asa Stevens from Hawaii on that card. I interviewed him earlier this week, and I'll be putting out an article on nyfights.com as I checked in with him. So I'm really excited about that. January 2nd, Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell. Let's see what happens, because if Ryan Garcia wins and it's big, man, that people are going to be calling for Tank Ryan or Teofimo Ryan, and that, my friend, is going to be something for 2021.
Absolutely.
That is a 4th of July LA Staples Center or MSG type of fight. Trust me and book it.
Yep, and hopefully, 2021 lets up with the coronavirus spread, and we're able to curb that spread, and you hopefully things seem to be leaning in that direction, so we can actually get out and see these fights ringside, and have the crowd back in the seats. But 2020 brought us an interesting year, brought us some great fights. We're probably going to do a 2020 wrap up in our next video, and take us out to 2021. So listen, that's it for us here at the Boxing Weekend Update, episode 2. More episodes for us here to come. Tell them where they can find you at, Abe, before we leave.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at ABG718, and you can see some of my articles on NewYorkFights.com. That's NYFights.com.
All right, and as always, I am the Bronx Bomber, host of the No Standing 8 Count Talking Channel on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter under the Bronx Bomber handle. And here in the near future, look out for the Bronx Bomber Boxer blog as I picked up writing again. You can get my takes, my no-nonsense approach to boxing as I call out the truths and the not truths of the boxing world. Stay tuned. Gabe, have a good one.
All right.